ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नम ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to this Purushottama Yoga series. We are discussing the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita in this auspicious Purushottama month. In the first six shlokas of the 15th chapter, we have seen Krishna describing the material world and the spiritual world, and also the process of going from this material world to the spiritual world. From the seventh shloka, Krishna began a new theme, which is transmigration of the soul in this world. How does the soul go from one body to another body? What are the experiences of the soul in this new world, in this material world, in different bodies? That's the subject matter of the next few shlokas. In the seventh shloka, Krishna described the identity of the soul. Mamaivamsho jiva loki. Every soul is an amsha of Krishna, part of Krishna. But the souls are struggling. In the eighth shloka, Krishna spoke that the soul changes bodies. The subtle body or the mind carries the soul from one material body to another gross material body. That's the subject matter of eighth shloka. Today, in the ninth shloka, Krishna says that after entering a new body, how does the soul experience this world? How does the soul experience the material world? That's the subject matter. Let's recite the shloka first. Shrotram chakshuh sparshanam cha rasanam gharanam cha adhishtaya manaschayam vishayan upasevate. Shrotram chakshuh sparshanam cha rasanam gharanam cha adhishtaya manaschayam vishayan upasevate. Let's see the meaning of this shloka. This shloka has a very simple meaning. Simply, it says that the soul, after having entered a new material body, experiences this world through the material senses and the mind. That's a simple meaning. Let's see the meaning word to word. First, Shrotram. Shrotram means ears. Second, Chakshuhu means eyes. Third, Sparshanam means sense of touch. Fourth, Rasanam means tongue. Fifth, Granam means nose. These are the five senses. And by the way, we have 10 senses, not five. Five are Gnanendriyas called knowledge acquiring senses. Remaining five are Karmendriyas called working senses. And these working senses are hands and legs and other bodies, bodily parts. But Krishna spoke about the Gnanendriyas in this shloka. We'll discuss more about it. But who is the boss of all these senses? Adhishtaya manaschayam. Mind is the adhishtaya. Mind, all these senses are grouped about the mind. So mind is like the sometimes called sixth sense also. Mind is the master of all these senses. It is the mind who instigates the senses to work in a certain way. The desires of the mind, the feelings of the mind, the aspirations of the mind instigate the senses to work in a certain way. For example, my mind is desiring to eat an ice cream. My legs will walk towards the parlor. My hands may pick up the ice cream. My hand may put that ice cream into the mouth and the tongue starts tasting it. All the senses are put into action by the mind's desire, mind's dictations, mind's indications, right? So Vishayanupasevate. Vishaya means sense objects. All these five senses have their corresponding sense objects or corresponding objects through which the senses experience some pleasure. Vishayanupasevate. Basically, the soul enters a new body and the body has all these five senses, and The mind is the uh, carrier of all the conceptions and impressions from the previous body to this body. We have seen in the previous shloka that it is the mind in the subtle body of the living being that carries the soul from this body to another body. And in the new body, new senses are acquired. But the mind has old impressions, old desires. All these old unfulfilled desires from the past life, which are stored in the mind, are being now fulfilled or at least pursued through this new set of senses that came through this new body. Right? So, uh, every living being has these five senses. The first sense is the eye, or one of the senses is the eye. Through eyes, we see beautiful forms, beautiful places, beautiful people, beautiful objects. Beautiful or ugly, some form. Basically, form is the sense object for the eye. For the ear, the sense object is the sound. Sometimes pleasant music, sometimes unpleasant music. Some sense objects are very pleasant to experience, some sense objects are very unpleasant to experience. But all senses are experiencing sense objects, looking forward to come in touch with the sense objects. Nose, fragrance, nice flowers or gardens, etc. Tongue, nice fruits or different kinds of eatables. Then the sense of touch experiences uh, softness or hardness or cold or heat, etc. The sense of touch has another way of experiencing the sense objects. So, this is how the senses are connected to this world. In the material world around us, there are sense objects. And in this material body, we have senses. So, these senses in the material body come in contact with the sense objects in the material world. And that's how the soul is interacting with the material world. But the problem is the soul is spiritual in nature. Body is material, senses are material, sense objects are material, material world is material. Therefore, the soul is like a fish out of water. The soul is inside the body, but in reality, the soul's condition is like fish out of water, as we discussed in one of our previous classes, right? So, this is how the soul is experiencing different kinds of world and different kinds of sense objects in this world. The scriptures also give us this beautiful analogy of uh, body chariot analogy. The body is compared to a chariot driven by five horses. These five horses are the five senses: the sense of sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch. So these are all uh, sense senses running behind the sense objects. Horses running towards a destination is compared to senses running behind the sense objects. Eye running behind sight, and ear running behind hearing, nose running behind smell, like that. So all the senses are moving according to the mind's direction. Here, these reins or ropes are compared to mind, right? And the person who is sitting here, the driver, is compared to the intelligence, right? Intelligence is the driver, the reins are the mind, and these five horses are the five senses. And the destination of these five horses are these five sense objects, right? Sight or form, hearing, smell, taste, touch, etc. Right? So this is the body chariot analogy. Now, like, if the senses are not controlled, these senses may come in contact with wrong kinds of sense objects. See, every sense needs some enjoyment, some gratification, some experience. We have to eat, we have to see things, we have to hear things. But the things that we hear, the things that we see, the things that we taste are not always good for us, right? Sometimes we may eat something which is not good for our health. Sometimes we may see something on the social media or on the screen or on the road which may contaminate our consciousness, which may induce some unnecessary thoughts in us. Basically, mind is getting so many impressions. Mind is storing so many desires and thoughts and feelings and emotions and attachments and aversions when the senses come in contact with sense objects. When my tongue tastes something very sweet or very tasty, a positive impression is stored in the mind. Similarly, when the tongue is tasting something not so tasty, a negative impression is stored in the mind. When my eyes are seeing something very beautiful, a positive impression is stored in the mind. And when the eyes are seeing something ghastly, very ugly, a negative impression is stored in the mind. Similarly, when my nose is smelling something very sweet, very fragrant, a positive impression is stored in the mind. When the same nose is smelling something very foul, a negative impression is stored in the mind. Thus, whenever my senses interact with the sense objects in this world, the mind is acquiring a lot of impressions, desires, and these are getting converted into thoughts and feelings and emotions, attachments, aversions, likes and dislikes. All these are being stored in the mind. Mind becomes a storehouse of unlimited impressions. How many impressions can the mind store? We cannot even imagine, right? Your hard disks may store some amount of data, 500 MB, 500 GB, or 1 TB, 2 TB. Like every hard disk has a capacity. Your phone has a capacity, memory, but mind has unlimited memory. So this mind can store impressions and conceptions and desires and thoughts and emotions from lifetimes, right? Suddenly some emotion pops up, uh, and instigates us to do something, directs the senses to do something that has been stored in the mind for a long, long time, probably from the previous lifetimes also, right? So we need to avoid negative kind of inputs to the mind. See, when senses are experiencing some positive sense objects, good impressions are stored in the mind. That's good. That's good. But when the senses are coming in contact with wrong kinds of sense objects, negative impressions and negative desires are being stored in the mind. Therefore, we need to be very careful while bringing our senses in contact with the sense objects. Very careful. So, eyes may see some wrong things on the social media sometimes or many times. Ears may hear unnecessary gossip. Touch is constantly hankering to touch the opposite gender sometimes or many times in this world. And the tongue may hanker for junk food. Nose may get intoxicated with unnecessary, smell, fragrances. So these senses are not only experiencing good sense objects in this world, a lot of bad sense objects are also bombarding the senses, and that's how mind is also getting contaminated. So the mind is taking inputs through the senses, and later the mind gives inputs to the senses. Mind has acquired certain impression when the senses come in contact with sense objects. Once we acquire some impression about some sense object, mind remembers it. Mind tells. For example, you ate something which is very tasty. May not be healthy, but very tasty. Mind stored a positive impression. Then the mind starts telling the tongue, go and eat again, go and eat again. Or when you saw something, some movie, it may not be very good, but somehow your eyes got attracted to it, your mind stored a good impression about it. The mind says, go to that channel, see that again, once again, you see once again. Like that, all the good and bad desires stored in the mind are constantly pushing the senses to experience more and more sense objects. When the senses are experiencing some sense objects, mind is acquiring some inputs. And later the uh, mind is pushing the senses to again experience the same sense objects. That's how we are getting contaminated in this world. So Prabhupada writes in this purport, consciousness is originally pure, like water. But if you mix water with some color, then the color of the water changes. Like you see, this normal water became little pinkish water. Similarly, consciousness also becomes uh, contaminated by associating with material qualities, bad, undesirable qualities. So it's our responsibility to take only positive inputs so that our consciousness and mind do not get contaminated. Prabhupada says real consciousness is Krishna consciousness. When therefore one is situated in Krishna consciousness, he is in his pure life. But if his consciousness is adulterated by some type of material mentality, in the next life, he gets a corresponding body. Right? All these impressions stored in the mind are creating more and more bodies, unnecessary bodies. Now let's conclude our discussion uh, by saying uh, what kind of inputs we need to give to the mind through the senses. So we discussed it before also, but let's remind ourselves once again. We are souls using these gross and subtle bodies, and the mind is strongly influenced by the senses, and later mind begins to control the senses as we discussed. Therefore, the real solution is to find true joy by engaging those senses in Krishna's service. When we start feeding the senses proper spiritual sense objects, then mind will not get distracted. We will not be creating more and more material bodies. Now let's recite one shloka, two shlokas from the Bhagavatam. This is from the Sudama episode of the 10th canto of Bhagavatam, 80th chapter, 3rd and 4th shlokas. स सावाज्ञया तस्य गुणान् गृणीते करौ च तत्कर्म करौ मनश्च स्मरेद्वसन्तं स्थिरजङ्गमेषु शृणोति तत्पुण्यकथाः स कर्णः शिरस्तु तस्योभयलिङ्गमानमेत् तदेव यत्पश्यति तद्धि चक्षुः अङ्गानि विष्णोरथ तज्जनानां पादोदकं यानि भजन्ति नित्यम्. Here, these two shlokas teach us the right utility of our senses. Senses have to come in contact with sense objects. No other way. Eyes have to see, hands have to touch something, nose has to smell something. Mhm. Even if you close your nose, how long can you close your nose? Nose has to be open. Eyes have to be open. How long will you close your eyes or ears or mouth, etc.? Senses have to come in contact with sense objects, but we need to be very careful and conscious and smart in choosing the right kind of sense objects for the senses. So that direction is given in this shloka. Savagyayatasya gunan granite. With our vak, with our sense of speech, we should try to glorify the qualities of Krishna. Second, karau cha tat karma karau manascha. With our karau, with our hands, we should try to serve Krishna, perform service of Krishna. Manascha smared vasantam sthirajangameshu. With our mind, we should always try to remember Krishna, who stays in sthirajangameshu, all moving and non-moving entities. Shrunoti tat punya kathasa karnaha. Karna means ears. The right utility of ears is to hear about Krishna. Then, Shirastu tasyo bhayalingamanamet. The right utility of Sira means head is to bow down in front of Krishna. Tadeva yat pashyati tadhi chakshuhu. Chakshu. The right utility of eyes is to see Krishna's form. Angani Vishnorath Jananam Padodakam Yani Bhajanti Nityam. And entire body must be engaged in Krishna's service and also the service of Krishna's devotees. So, thus, if we utilize all our senses in a very productive and spiritual way, if we feed spiritual sense objects to our material senses, the senses will be purified. And thus, our tenure in this material world can be terminated. We can go to the spiritual world. Right? So, in this today's shloka, Krishna spoke a simple fact that when a soul enters a new material body, the new material body, like a package, comes with five senses, and of course, this mind is there. So, these five senses are interacting with the sense objects. So, we need to choose how to, what kind of sense object should we expose our senses to. So, that choice is our choice. We have that independence to expose our senses to the right kind of sense objects. Then we can conclude this, we can terminate this transmigration cycle. So tomorrow we'll discuss the 10th shloka. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.